The Galactic Council chamber was shaped like a spiraling nautilus shell, intentional, of course, meant to symbolize peace and continuity. But today, every spiral hummed with tension. Even the air filtration system sounded nervous. Across 100 floating thrones, species from every corner of the galaxy had gathered, their expressions ranging from simmering irritation to barely concealed glee. After 4,000 years of enforced peace, someone had finally done the unthinkable. The humans had crossed a border. Accidentally, they claimed. Casually, they insisted. Repeatedly, they denied. And yet here they were, summoned, tried, and soon to be judged by powers that had ruled the galaxy long before Earth had discovered fire. An alien warlord known as High Strategos, Coroner of the Zavari, sat rigid on his perch, talons drumming impatiently. His scaly eyelids blinked sideways as he surveyed the polished, empty space where the human delegation was supposed to have appeared. "They're late," he hissed. "They call it fashionably late," came the dry reply from Ambassador Vincent of the Amari, a willowy species made of living glass and long silences. Apparently, it denotes control. Coroner bared his fangs. "They think themselves clever. But that ends today." As if on cue, a sudden burst of sound filled the chamber. Not a war horn, nor an ancient council chime, no. A cheerful jingle. Piano heavy. Swing jazz. The entire chamber stared at the ceiling as music floated down from unseen speakers. Then, with theatrical slowness, a shimmering ripple of light formed in the center of the chamber. Out of it stepped 3 humans in impeccable suits, followed by 2 guards in half-buttoned uniforms and sunglasses, chewing gum. At the front was a tall, slim man with hair like silver smoke and a smile that should have been patented for diplomatic warfare. Vincent Hale, Earth's ambassador, its voice, its weapon. He walked like the floor owed him an apology. "Apologies for the delay," Hale said, bowing slightly with that signature blend of humility and threat. "Our shuttle's gravity stabilizer was acting up. Seems it doesn't like station-standard frequencies. Or perhaps it was just stage fright." A few species chuckled politely. Most didn't. Coroner stood. "Humanity has violated the sacred border accord 17 times in 2 months. 18, Hale corrected brightly. "We missed one on the official count. You're very thorough. You mock this council." "Never," Hale said, placing a hand over his chest. "I'm here out of utmost respect. In fact," he turned, accepting a tray from one of the guards, "we brought cookies." The tray was offered to the nearest dignitary, a tentacled ball of bone and mucus known as the Sathala speaker. It stared at the tray. The tray stared back. "No," Hale said. "They're chocolate chip. Handcrafted. Very Earth." Silence thickened. Selai's voice rang out coolly. "Ambassador Hale, this is not a banquet. You are summoned here to answer for your species' aggressive provocations." "Oh no," Hale said. "Provocations? We thought we were exploring. That wormhole near your outer colony? We thought it was a scenic detour. Stunning colors. Though the plasma storms were a bit grabby." Coroner growled. "You annihilated a Zavari scout fleet." "We waved first," Hale said, unblinking. "They fired. Very rude. The scout fleet had no weapons." "They fired looks," Hale replied with a straight face. "Aggressive ones. We have a term for that back home. Intent to smolder." Coroner nearly leapt from his perch. "This is outrageous. Humanity's presence is a cancer. You spread laughter where there should be fear. You act like children. You think smiles win wars. Strange thing about children," Hale said quietly. "They grow teeth." Every species present stilled. The air shifted. The Sathala speaker made a gurgling sound and finally said, "Why now, humans? Why push borders? Why test ancient lines of peace?" Hale's eyes twinkled. "We weren't testing," he said. "We were taking attendance." The silence cracked slightly as if the room had tilted. Alien faces, all of them vastly different in biology, all shifted in the same expression. Confusion edged with unease. Selai leaned forward. "Attendance of what?" "Defense networks," Hale answered. "Trade routes. Species reactions. Fleet response times. Battle group formations." "How fast you panic," How slow you prepare. All very informative. He leaned back, casually folding his hands. You see, Earth has been watching for a very long time. For 1,000 years of peace is lovely. But peace is a glass floor. Sooner or later, someone looks down. Coroner bellowed. This is a confession of intent to declare war. Hale gave him a pitying smile. No, strategos. This is a confession of readiness. There's a difference. A murmur spread across the chamber. A few delegates tapped into private data lines, whispering with their homeworlds. Several noticed, too late, that communication uplinks were slowing. Systems were jittery. The humans hadn't brought weapons. But something in the room had changed. Hale nodded toward one of his guards. The man pressed a small button on his cufflink. A projection blinked to life in the center of the chamber. Grainy, silent footage. Alien fleets approaching Earth from different quadrants. All now missing. Crossed out. Karina squinted. What is this? Ghosts, Hale said. Your fleets. Or they were. We wanted to see if you'd make the first move. You did. Celiai's voice dropped half an octave. You baited us. We offered you tea and cookies, Hale said. You tried to take our table. A flutter of panic spread among the more paranoid delegations. The Tezcari delegation began tapping their wristpads. No uplinks. No exits. No signals. We find your attitude hostile, the Zavari strategos said through clenched teeth. And I find your assumption that we would always be the quiet child in the corner amusing, Hale said. You think because we're new to the table, we don't know how it's carved. But we watched. We learned. And when we couldn't match your weapons, he paused. We built better jokes. There was genuine fear now. Not from the warriors, but the tacticians. The old ones. The ones who recognized misdirection for what it was, a blade hidden behind charm. Hale stepped forward slowly, the light catching his eyes just wrong enough to make the smile behind them vanish. For 1,000 years of peace, he said. Do you know what a species like ours does with that kind of time? We overthink. We plan. We imagine. We practice being underestimated until it stops being practice. Are you threatening this council? Celiai asked softly. No, Hale replied. I'm reminding it. Karina roared, slamming a talon into the floor. This mockery is over. Zavari Command hereby declares the peace broken. The war begins now. Hale blinked, as if surprised, then chuckled. Oh, you really think you're the one declaring war? He turned to his guards. Gentlemen, cue the apology. The second guard hit a switch on his belt. Every terminal in the chamber flickered. All comms went dead. Doors sealed. Then, across the massive hall, a unified transmission began. A pre-recorded message of every human colony world, every deep black site, every hidden fleet in solar shade, lighting up across the stars. And one voice, a woman's voice, calm, commanding, familiar. This is Earth. We acknowledge your declaration of hostilities. Effective immediately, all treaties are null. Defensive protocols have been upgraded. Offensive countermeasures engaged. Thank you for your participation in the evaluation phase. May luck favor the polite. The projection vanished. Silence returned. Then Hale bowed again, just a little deeper. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, welcome to the real meeting. He turned, walked off the platform, and the lights dimmed behind him. Kariner stared at the space he left behind, claws trembling. The humans had been smiling the whole time. Now he understood why, and it terrified him. 2 hours after the council chamber went dark, panic blossomed across the galactic network like blood in water. Station-wide communications had not only failed, they'd been overridden. Every private channel, military frequency, and encrypted loop was displaying the same rotating image. A cup of steaming tea on a porcelain saucer, captioned with one Earth word in elegant cursive, patience. The symbolism confused many. Others were too alarmed to be poetic. Kariner paced inside his temporary command suite aboard the Zavari dreadnought Iron Dominion, every step deepening the gouge marks along the floor. His sub-commanders stood at attention, but their eyes drifted often toward the ceiling, listening, hoping, dreading. "Where are my fleets?" he snapped for the 5th time. A technician fumbled with a sputtering display. "Still no contact with groups VEC 9 through VEC 14. We suspect jamming or..." "Suspect?" Kariner roared. "You suspect?" They were in open space near human border sectors. Entire battle groups don't vanish unless they've been removed. The technician winced, antennae curling back. On the other side of the Galactic core, aboard the Amari thought crystal vessel Elon Thres, Ambassador Vincent floated in meditation. Her body flickered like shifting light through a prism, but even she couldn't filter the unease. She had spent 5,000 years mastering patience, diplomacy, and balance. But nothing in those 5 millennia prepared her for the grin of a human who knew something she didn't. That alone unsettled her. The fact that their accidental incursions had been part of a broader scan, a test, a probe, a measuring tool disguised as bumbling arrogance, was unthinkable. Humans had presented themselves as eager students. But now it felt like they had only pretended to kneel, so they could count how many swords the council carried, and who sharpened theirs last. Vincent opened a private link, bypassing council systems entirely. "I require a conversation," she said into the darkness. "With Vincent Hale." There was a pause. Then, her own screen filled with the image of Hale, not in formal attire, but lounging in a modest cabin somewhere, sleeves rolled up, mug in hand, feet on a console, humming an earth tune about blue moons and shoes. "Ambassador Vincent," he said with a warmth that could melt neutronium. "Lovely to see you again. We should talk more often. Before galactic breakdowns." "You engineered this," she said. "Engineered is such a strong word," Hale replied, taking a sip. "Let's go with anticipated. You baited the Zavari into war." "Did we?" Hale asked. "I remember bringing cookies." Her tone hardened. "You sealed the council chambers. You disable comms. This is not diplomacy. This is manipulation." "Correction," he said. "It was diplomacy. What happens now depends entirely on you." "You've silenced half the galaxy," she accused. "No," Hale said. "We just asked it to listen. For once." Across a dozen star sectors, reports flooded in, ships disappearing without combat, surveillance drones turning on their users, entire bases broadcasting strange Earth transmissions before going silent. None of it made sense. No human fleet had been observed launching. No war armada had entered known space. And yet, the results were unmistakable. On the Tezcari Moon Fortress Urek 9, General Vroll watched as his elite recon unit marched back through the gates, only to halt, eyes glazed, uniforms altered, humming Earth tunes. Their systems had been rewritten, not hacked, repurposed. Vroll scanned one of their helmets and found the HUD filled with videos of Earth squirrels and a looping message. "We learn by play. So do you." He nearly threw the helmet. On Station Trivaxa, Ambassador Hale walked freely again through the main council promenade. The lockdown had lifted not because humans relented, but because they wanted it to lift. It was a performance. All of it. A magician's flourish to misdirect the audience from the real trick. Aliens watched him pass with quiet terror. None approached. None interrupted. Even Kariner, watching via hidden surveillance feed, hesitated before issuing orders. "Is it possible," his second-in-command whispered, "that we have underestimated them?" Kariner growled low. "They are soft, undisciplined, deranged. They removed 7 fleets without firing. They locked the council with a button. They're not soft. They're rehearsed." Kariner stared at the feed. Hale stopped near a planter filled with imported trees from the Jalari homeworld. He bent, sniffed a flower, smiled at a passing cleaning droid, and continued walking like a man late to brunch. "We need to strike first," Kariner muttered. "Hit Earth. Hard. Now." "Earth is gone." Kariner's head snapped toward the tech. "What?" The technician repeated it slowly. "Gone. The Sol system is no longer in its expected location. Probes confirm its stellar coordinates now produced nothing but microwave echo. It's not there." A silence, so thick it became gravitational, swallowed the room. Kariner exhaled. "Impossible. You're saying they moved a solar system?" The technician trembled. Not the system, strategos. Just the appearance. A cloaking field. Large scale. Ancient. Possibly powered by an artificial singularity. They've made Earth disappear, Cariner whispered. What species does that? Back aboard the Elon Thress, Cell AI watched as Hale walked into the private diplomatic chamber she'd reserved. He carried a bag under one arm. No guards. No weapons. Just a calm smile and the rustle of paper. Brought you something, he said, setting the bag down. Another joke? He shook his head. Actual Earth tea. The calming kind. Thought you could use it. She stared at him. Why are you here, Vincent Hale? He met her gaze, and for the first time, the mischief in his eyes dimmed slightly. To avoid the real war. She blinked. You orchestrated a galactic crisis to avoid war. Cell AI, he said softly. You're old enough to know what's coming. Something bigger than you, or me, or this council. You've seen the drift in subspace. The ancient silence in Quadrant W9. We've seen it too. But unlike the rest of you, we decided to stop waiting for it. Her voice dropped. You believe something's coming. I know something's already here. He tapped a small device, and the projection lit up between them. An impossible shape. A fractal anomaly. Data pulsed across it, showing distortion fields, memory loops, language interference patterns. It had no center, no edge. We call it the whisper. She recoiled. That's a myth. A psychological contagion. It's real, Hale said. And it's already infected 6 minor worlds. You don't notice it at first, only that your people start forgetting why they do what they do. Empires collapse in confusion. Purpose erodes. Then comes the violence. And then silence. Cell AI studied him. Why haven't you told the council? Because if we told them, Hale said, it would hear us. Cell AI's mind reeled. If what he claimed was true, then the war was a cover. A mask. A cosmic sleight of hand. Humanity hadn't provoked the Zavari for dominance. They had done it to draw the real threat out of hiding. You're using us, she said quietly. Using the council. Using war. To smoke out a predator older than language, Hale said. Yes. The door chimed once, then opened. One of Hale's guards leaned in. Sir, they're broadcasting. Who? Everyone. In unison, thousands of galactic channels activated. Across every major hub, alien leaders began condemning Earth, calling for sanctions, blockades, counter-invasion. The noise was deafening. But behind it, buried inside the background frequency of the broadcasts, something else moved. A subharmonic pattern. Irregular. Alien. Cell AI's crystalline form flickered. The whisper, she murmured. Hale nodded. It uses chaos as a microphone. And now we've made the galaxy scream. In the Tezcari deep listening vaults, the Elder Watchers began to shudder. They had trained for centuries to listen for hidden patterns. And now, they all began humming the same tone unconsciously. The lead watcher tore out his earpiece and fled. Too late, he whispered. We played the wrong song. Cariner's flagship-powered weapons. The fleet surged forward toward where Earth used to be. Behind him, his war council erupted in shouted plans. Then the stars changed. One by one, uncharted wormholes bloomed in dead space sectors, and out of them came human ships. Not civilian freighters. Not sleek diplomatic cruisers. These were brutal things. Black-hulled, jagged-edged, thick-plated ships that didn't look like they were built. They looked like they were grown out of nightmares and welded with spite. No signals. No heraldry. Just a single phrase broadcast on an ancient analog channel. We apologize for the delay. We were preparing for everything. They came in silence. And they didn't aim for the Zavari. They aimed for the empty spaces. The forgotten systems. The places the whisper had started to touch. Cell AI stood at the viewport beside Hale, watching the star map shift in real time. You forced our hand, she said. No, Hale replied. We've opened your eyes. The galaxy wouldn't understand. Not yet. But they would soon. And when they did, they'd remember that the humans had smiled through it all, not out of ignorance, but because they'd already seen the darkness coming and prepared to meet it with a grin. The galaxy's idea of human warfare had always been amusing. Clumsy, some called it. Emotionally erratic, overly dramatic, bound to chaos. Species like the Zavari and Tezcari prided themselves on precision strikes, doctrinal superiority, and centuries-old tactical doctrine. Humans? They danced in combat like it was a bar fight and a Broadway show combined, chaotic, unpredictable, and somehow always 2 steps ahead. Until now, most of the council had mistaken that chaos for weakness. That illusion shattered in under 8 hours. When the first wave of human shadow fleets arrived through wormholes that had no gravitational signature, the Amari flagged them as technological hallucinations. The Tezcari marked them as impossible constructs. The Zavari, to their credit, didn't bother labeling them. They just opened fire. 3 Zavari heavy cruisers unleashed a barrage of fusion lances toward the nearest incoming vessel. An angular juggernaut with the charming name HSF Home is where the hurt is. The fusion beams never reached it. Instead, each beam was intercepted by swarms of drone-like countermeasures, erupting from the human ship like 1,000 angry bees in riot gear. Each intercept was pinpointed, clean, precise. The human ship never veered, never returned fire. It simply floated forward, untouched. Then came the lights. Soft, flickering, strange. Alien officers reported symptoms. Blurred vision, rhythmic pulses in the brain, disorientation. "It's not a weapon," said one Tezcari scientist, clutching her skull. "It's a pattern, a behavioral code." Across multiple fleets, confusion set in. Officers began repeating strange Earth phrases into their comms. "Rock the baby, cradle will fall." "Twinkle, twinkle, blackout." London Bridge. The bridge of the Iron Dominion fell into chaos. Cariner slammed a fist into the console, roaring over the madness. "Counter it. I don't care how. Shut down all external visual feeds." An officer tried, then froze mid-gesture. He began to hum. Cariner shot him in the chest and ordered the bridge sealed. He was beginning to understand. This wasn't just a show of force. It was performance warfare. Elsewhere, things got stranger. Entire alien command centers found themselves locked out of their own systems. Login protocols were rewritten in the form of human nursery rhymes. Alien encryption engines were forced to solve riddles in Earth slang before granting access. Tactical databases replaced with pictures of raccoons in tactical vests. Why raccoons? Cell AI asked aloud as she watched a corrupted data feed spill another looped clip of the masked mammal stealing a donut from a military drone. Vincent Hale's face flickered into view. He looked cheerful. Too cheerful. "They're scavengers," he said, "but adaptable, clever, territorial, handsy. And they always look like they just got away with something." "I'm beginning to believe humans are worse," she muttered. "Oh no," he said. "We learn from them." In the shadows of the galaxy, human spec ops teams began deploying, not in waves of ships, but in pinpoint teleports, arriving in the center of enemy capital ships without warning. One Zavari carrier, the Fury of Dawn, experienced total lockdown 17 seconds after a strange humming began in the barracks. By minute 2, the ship's lights flickered. By minute 3, the security footage showed dozens of human operators in bright red Hawaiian shirts and aviator sunglasses moving through the halls with disturbing calm. One carried a rubber duck. No shots were fired. No screams recorded. Only a single message left on the bridge in chocolate syrup across the console. "Please don't poke the hairless apes. We get twitchy." In the council chamber, now back online under human surveillance, the uproar was volcanic. The humans are destabilizing the entire defense architecture. They're using cultural warfare. We can't tell if we're being hacked, hypnotized, or humiliated. Hale sipped tea at the center podium. "Yes." "You're insane," barked the delegate from the Oscary Spinal Collectors, whose ships had all spontaneously rerouted themselves to orbit a gas giant shaped suspiciously like Earth's moon. "Possibly," Hale said, "but effective. We're just making sure you listen." Cell AI stood slowly. Her voice rang like crystal against glass. "You've proven your point. We're listening. Now tell us what you want." Hale's smile softened. The room quieted. He set the tea down and clasped his hands. What we want, he said, is to survive something none of you are ready for. And we want to stop bleeding effort into a war you didn't even mean to start. Coroner's image crackled to life above the chamber. You provoked this war. No, Hale said. We invited you to make a choice. You chose poorly. We will retaliate. No, Hale said calmly. You won't. Across the chamber, multiple screens lit up, showing live feeds from Coroner's own homeworld. Not explosions. Not devastation. Gardens. Statues. And humans. Thousands of them. Quietly dismantling weapons depots, rerouting logistics, and, oddly, serving pancakes to curious Zavari children. What have you done? Coroner whispered. Operation Disarm with Delight, Hale said. Our best psychologists discovered a direct link between flapjacks and reduced aggression in your kind. Strange, right? We will resist, Coroner snarled. You already didn't. One by one, the council members realized something profound. The humans hadn't crippled fleets. They hadn't fired doomsday weapons or deployed nanite storms. They'd invaded thought space, culture, behavior, assumptions. Hale's voice echoed, soft and surgical. You thought we were unpredictable because we lacked order. You assumed we had no plan. But chaos, dear friends, is just order in a mask. Cell AI approached him slowly. This whisper you spoke of, is it real? It's spreading, Hale said. And it feeds on discord. So we needed you scared, focused, unified. So, the war was theater, she said bitterly. It was bait, he corrected. And you bit it beautifully. She closed her eyes. And what comes next? Something big, Hale said. And hungry. But we're ready. A moment passed. Then Cell AI did something unexpected. She bowed. The entire chamber froze. Coroner's image vanished. One by one, the delegates turned to Hale. He didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He simply poured another cup of tea and said, So, shall we get to work? In the dark zone of Sector W9, stars no longer sang. Astrophysicists once said every sun emitted its own unique resonance, a kind of radiant music detectable through gravimetric modulation. But this region had gone silent. No stellar hum. No warmth. Just a spreading hush that defied explanation. They called it the dead halo. Theories ranged from collapsed civilizations to black hole chains. None were correct. From her glass-veined command center aboard the Elon Thress, Ambassador Cell AI stared at the live scan. The halo was growing. It absorbs intention, she whispered. Not just energy. Vincent Hale, seated behind her, didn't look up. He was assembling what looked like a Rubik's Cube made entirely of transparent steel and old earth wires. It clicked in odd patterns, like a machine trying to solve itself. Intention, he said, is the first thing it eats. How do you fight something like that? He paused. You don't fight it. You teach others how to fight it. Cell AI turned. Her crystalline silhouette shimmered, tinged with dread. That's why you baited the council. Why you played the fool. Hale offered a tired smile. We only seem foolish if you think strength looks like a clenched fist. But sometimes it looks like a handshake. You could have told us, she said. We did, he said. Every time we brought cookies to a summit. Every time we smiled and asked, Are you ready for something impossible? You all laughed. So we adapted. Her voice dropped. The whisper is awake now, isn't it? It was never asleep, Hale murmured. Just waiting for us to get loud enough. Across the stars, ships, Zavari, Amari, Tezcari, and even a few rogue Earth haters moved into place. A strange, unified formation. They hadn't planned it. They hadn't even spoken. But they had all begun to orbit the growing void. The humans called it the Eye, because it was watching. Back on the Galactic Council station, the atmosphere had shifted entirely. Gone was the pomp, the ceremonial robes, the ancient speeches. Every species sat at the same level now. No floating thrones. No hierarchy. They had all seen what the humans had done in less than a week. And now, for once, they listened. Coroner stood stiffly near the edge, one arm in a sling. courtesy of a misunderstanding involving pancakes and a combat knife. He still didn't like humans, but he feared them less now. Fear was rooted in the unknown. But Hale had shown his cards. Not all of them, but enough. Cell AI took center floor. We have received intercepted signals from within the dead halo. Fragments. Distorted. She gestured, and the council's display hummed to life. Static-formed symbols, shapes, impossible geometries that warped even under observation. Some delegates looked away. Others stared too long and began to weep. "It's language," she said. "Or memory pretending to be language." A long pause followed. Then Hale rose. "It's not speaking to you," he said. "It's remembering you." He stepped forward, no longer in his tailored Earth suit, but a dark uniform with no insignia. A garment designed for utility, not show. Even his posture had shifted. Less ambassador, more architect. He activated a portable holofield. Dozens of images bloomed. Historical records, schematics, star charts, and at the center, a seed. The seed pulsed in the same fractal pattern as the halo. "This is what we found 80 years ago," he said. "In the crust of an asteroid orbiting nothing. No star. No gravity. It shouldn't have been there. But it was. And it was dreaming." A murmur. Hale continued. "We studied it. It studied us back. And when we tried to isolate it, it infected more than our machines. It began rewriting how we think about thinking. We nearly lost an entire research outpost to recursive language loops." Coroner growled. "Then why did you not destroy it?" "Because you can't destroy a story," Hale said. "Especially one that tells you." He stepped aside as the display shifted again. This time, it showed Earth's secret archives. Entire fleets hidden in pocket dimensions. Training simulations running for hundreds of years in relative time. Psychological warfare academies. None of it built to fight aliens. All of it built to fight what was coming. "You thought we smiled because we were harmless," Hale said. "We smiled because we had to teach ourselves not to scream." Cell AI spoke, her voice sharper than before. "If it can reshape thought, how do we resist it?" "You don't resist it alone," Hale said. "You surround it with better stories." That's how we survived the first exposure. We turned Earth into a cacophony of contradictions. Humor, horror, irony, ritual, love, obsession. We made our minds slippery. It couldn't hold us, couldn't anchor. The Zavari general leaned in. "So we distract it. We confuse it," Hale said. "We overload its lens. It sees order. We give it jazz." That word meant nothing to most in the room, but they understood the tone. Cell AI turned to the council. "You've all seen the human fleets. Their methods. We dismiss them as erratic, but they've trained for this. They've become this. We must follow them." "No," Hale said. "You must let us lead. Not because we want to, but because we have to." The chamber stilled. No arguments came. Not now. Far across the system, on the edge of the dead halo, a human fleet waited in perfect silence. No energy signatures. No broadcasts. Their ships drifted like bones. Then the void rippled. Not an explosion. Not an arrival. A correction. Space realigned. And something stepped out. It had no form. But every ship on the edge saw something different. To the Amari, it was a voice shaped like a memory. To the Zavari, it was war made flesh. To humans, it looked like a mirror. Hale stood aboard the command deck of the HSF Mercy of Teeth, staring at the incoming anomaly. His hands shook, but only slightly. "Trigger Matador," he said. On command, hundreds of dormant satellites hidden in deep space ignited. Not with weapons, but with stories. Broadcasts. Chaos. Humanity unleashed the noise. Children's laughter. War drums. Shakespeare soliloquies. Emergency sirens. Heavy metal. Looney Tunes. Podcasts. Family arguments. The sound of heartbreak. Victory speeches. Confessions whispered at 3 a.m. Bagpipes. Baseball announcers. Jazz solos. Laughter. Screams. Love. The void flinched. It flinched. For the first time in eons, the Whisper hesitated. And that was all Hale needed. Send the apes. Human strike teams launched in silence, riding pods coated in cognitive static. Their minds were laced with nonsense, riddles, inside jokes, forgotten childhood jingles. They hit the edge of the anomaly like needles piercing a dream. Kariner, watching from his warship, clenched his jaw. They're not attacking. No, Selei said, watching alongside him. They're infecting it. With themselves. One strike team was broadcasting sitcom laugh tracks at full volume while juggling thermal detonators. Another was reading poetry to a wall that didn't exist. One simply sat on a folding chair, holding a sign. Nice try, Whisper Boy. The Whisper began to fracture. Across its surface, images began to flicker. Human images. Faces. Emotions. Choice. Regret. Humor. It didn't understand. So it tried to mimic. For one terrifying moment, the Whisper spoke. 1,000 voices, all at once, each saying a different thing. But only one line cut through them all. You smiled because you feared. And Hale replied from a bridge, steady and cold. No. We smiled because we were ready. The Whisper convulsed. Then imploded. The ripple shattered the darkness. Light returned to Sector W9. The stars began to hum again. Across the galaxy, silence fell. And then applause. Actual applause. In the council chamber, delegates stood. Not by tradition, not by order, but by instinct. Hale returned to the floor. He didn't bow. He didn't gloat. He looked tired. Selei approached. You led us through madness. No, he said. We just showed you how to dance through it. Kariner stepped forward. His tone was still gravel, but something new lay beneath it. Respect. Perhaps next time we should listen sooner. Hale shrugged. Next time, bring your own cookies. Selei asked the final question. Why go through all this? The showmanship. The misdirection. The chaos. He met her eyes. Because humans are polite. Until we're not. The lights dimmed. Not from fear, but from peace. For the first time in 4,000 years, the galaxy wasn't just safe. It was awake.